Good morning, everyone. Before I came up here, we watched a short video. If you really paid attention, you may have felt something. Maybe it made you uncomfortable. Maybe it made you think about someone in your life. Or maybe it made you realize that you don't always know what someone is going through just by looking at them. And that's exactly the point. Because the hardest battles are usually the ones no one can see. I went to Bethaphylla, just like all of you. I walked the same halls, sat in the same seats, wore the same uniform, and sat in the same classrooms. I had friends, I played sports, teachers liked me, or at least I thought they did. From the outside, I looked completely fine. But suddenly, in 7th grade, something started to change. At first, it was just stress, or at least that's what I told myself. I would sit in class and suddenly feel my heart pounding for no reason. My hands would shake, my thoughts would race. I had this constant feeling that something was always wrong. I couldn't explain it. I started overthinking everything. Every conversation, every text, every look from someone across the room. The anxiety didn't go away. It grew, and slowly, that anxiety turned into depression. I started isolating myself. I stopped reaching out to friends, stopped making plans, and slowly disappeared from the people I cared about most. And when they asked if I was okay, I'd look them in the eye, smile, and say, yeah, I'm fine. But the second I got home, I would go straight to my room, shut the door, and lie in bed for hours, wondering when the pain would go away. And here's the part that made it worse. I had everything that people say should make you happy. A supportive family, good friends, opportunities. So I thought, I don't have a reason to feel this way. What's wrong with me? And that's what the stigma around mental health does. Stigma tells you you're being dramatic. Other people have it worse, or toughen up. So I hid it. I perfected the fake smile, the jokes, the version of myself that looked okay, because I was terrified that if people knew what was really going on inside my head, they would see me differently. Weak, broken, not normal. And eventually, the pain I was carrying inside became too much. I started hurting myself, not because I wanted attention, but because I didn't know how to release what I was feeling. The emotional pain felt overwhelming, and the physical pain felt easier to control. Some nights, I went to sleep hoping I wouldn't wake up the next morning. And some nights, those prayers came dangerously close to a permanent decision. Not because I hated my friends or I didn't love my family, but because I was exhausted from fighting my own thoughts every single day. The voice in my head kept telling me I was a burden, that people would be better off without me. And when you hear that long enough, it starts to feel true. Until one day, everything changed. My mom walked in my room to check in on me and saw the self-harm scars I had tried so hard to hide. There was no yelling, no chaos, just a heavy silence that said everything. And in that moment, I realized I couldn't hide from this anymore. I had hit rock bottom. I tried a therapist, then another therapist, then another. It didn't click right away. Sometimes I would talk for an hour and feel like nothing changed. But eventually, I found someone who understood me, someone who helped me slowly start removing those dark, foggy goggles I had been looking through for so long. I started medication, I stayed consistent even when progress felt slow, even when it felt frustrating, even when I wanted to quit. And little by little, things shifted. I made it through middle school, high school, and even managed to graduate a year early. Not because I was suddenly perfect, not because the anxiety magically disappeared, but because I stopped letting it control me. I learned techniques to regulate my anxiety, work through my depression, and completely reshape the way I viewed my mental health. Not as a weakness, but as something I could take control of. And somewhere in that rebuilding process, I found something that helped quiet my mind. Fitness. The gym became my outlet, my therapy, the one place where the noise in my head got quieter. I wasn't just building muscle, I was rebuilding confidence, rebuilding purpose, rebuilding myself. and that passion turned into my own personal training company. I took the pain that almost broke me and turned it into something that now helps other people feel stronger, both physically and mentally. And that's why I'm standing here today. Because the stigma around mental health almost kept me silent. It almost convinced me I wasn't allowed to struggle. It almost cost me my life. And I know I'm not the only person in this room who has ever felt that way. So I want to ask you all to do something. Just for a second, think about the version of yourself that no one else sees. The one in your room at night. The one in your head when it gets loud. The one that smiles in the hallway but feels exhausted inside. If that version of you is struggling, please don't wait until you hit rock bottom like I did. Don't wait until someone accidentally finds out. Don't wait until you convince yourself that you've handled it long enough. Talk to someone, a friend, a teacher, a parent, a coach, a counselor. Because the strongest thing I ever did wasn't lifting weights in the gym. It wasn't starting a business. The strongest thing I ever did was admitting I wasn't okay. More than 50% of teens with mental health conditions don't receive treatment. More than half stay silent. And the consequences are real. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death for kids ages 12 to 18. So if you're sitting here thinking, this doesn't apply to me, I want you to look around this room. Someone sitting next to you is fighting a battle you can't see. Someone sitting next to you is hoping that someone will notice their pain. Everyone in this room has mental health, whether it shows up as anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, an eating disorder, or even just moments of sadness you don't fully understand. It's not just something that matters when you're at your lowest. Mental health exists on a spectrum. So even if you're not at rock bottom, even if what you're feeling seems small, it still deserves to be taken care of. And that's why I want to encourage you to take Mental Health Awareness Week seriously. Not just for yourself, but for the friend who might be barely holding it together. For the teammate who jokes about everything, but never talks about how they feel. For the classmate who looks fine, but isn't. Create a space where people feel safe enough to say, I'm not okay. Because one conversation, one moment of courage, can change the direction of someone's entire life. It changed mine, and if I can stand here today, healthy, building a life I'm proud of, I promise you this: healing is real. Darkness doesn't last forever, and every single one of you is worth fighting for. Thank you.